to another Selah. And so today we're going to continue in Psalm 55, where we learn about how David is going through a betrayal with his close friend. And so last week we learned that, or last time you saw me, you learned that David was going through a very deeply distressed time and how he wanted to run away from his problems. He wanted to run away to a desert, a deserted island. And so we learned also that in life we cannot run away from our problems because we sometimes can make it worse, or we can be running away from the support system that will be able to help us through it. And so today we're going to continue in Psalm 55, and we're going to start in verse 9 and go through verse 11. So it says, "Confuse the wicked, O Lord, confound their speech. For I see violence and strife in the city. Day and night they prowl about on its walls. Malice and abuse are within it." Verse 11 says, "Destructive forces are at work in the city. Threats and lies never leave its streets." And so we learn here that in the previous verses, David expressed how much pain he was going through and how much pain he was feeling. And he begins to plead to God. So now we see that he is calling on the Lord to take action, to confuse the enemy. So let's continue. Verse 12. "If an enemy were insulting me, I could endure it. If a foe were raising himself against me, I could hide from him. But it is you, a man like myself, my companion, my close friend." So he's talking about his friend here, "with whom I once enjoyed sweet fellowship as we walked with the throng at the house of God. Let death take my enemies by surprise. Let them go down alive to the grave, for evil finds lodging among them." So we learn that here is where David talks about this companion. And we know that it wasn't just any friend. We learn that what was troubling David, it was a close friend, but one he spent time with, and good times with nonetheless. And he spent time worshiping the Lord with this friend. The lesson to learn here is that although evil and betrayal was done onto David, he doesn't go off and become a vigilante and deal with the person himself. He leaves it in God's hands. He gives it unto God. And so I ask you today, how many times do we want to take matters into our own hands? How many times do we want to do God's work for ourselves and go off and punish the person for what they did? I know I'm guilty. I can say honestly that so many times that I have tried to take matters into my own hands, where did it lead me? It led me straight into a bigger problem. And so foolishly we go into situations trying to play the hero and not realizing that we're making it worse. And so let's continue in verses 16 and 19 and see what David does here. It says, "But I call to God, and the Lord saves me. Evening, morning, and noon, I cry out in distress, and he hears my voice. He ransoms me unharmed from the battle waged against me. And even though many oppose me, God is enthroned forever. Will hear them and inflict them." Selah. And so Peter tells us in 1 Peter 5:7 to cast all of our cares onto the Lord. Why? Because he cares for us. God cares for us, and he wants to handle our problems for us. And so David calls for judgment, but not on his own terms, on God's terms. So I encourage you today, when you're going through whatever you're going through, pray to God and leave it in his hands. He should be the first person you go to when you're going and dealing with issues. And so let's turn over to Psalm 23 and read the scripture for today. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, and your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare me a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord together. So I hope you were encouraged today, and I thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you tomorrow at our drive-thru prayer.
Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the notification bell, and like this video. See you next time.